So we're going to keep going with the seventh chapter of Over Sea Under Stone by Susan Cooper. Well, Miss Withers and Bill discovered that the kids have the map. Simon took off running, and now Jane and Barney are going to warn Uncle Mary so he can help Simon. The dry grass was like polished wood under Simon's feet, giving no grip as he slipped and slithered down the hillside. Now on his feet, now flat on his back and elbows, holding one arm up always to keep the manuscript from damage. Behind him he heard the noise of the boy from the village slipping and stumbling more heavily, his breath rasping in his throat, and an occasional gasping curse as he lost his footing and fell. Facing outward across the harbor, as he ran down, Simon felt he could almost jump straight out into the sea. The slope seemed much steeper than when they had climbed it up by the path, dropping below him on an endless green curve. His heart was thumping wildly, and he was too intent on getting away to imagine what might happen if the boy caught up with him. But gradually, minute by minute, the panic at the pit of his stomach was disappearing. Everything depended on him now, to keep the manuscript safe and get away. He was almost enjoying himself. This was something that he could understand. It was like a race or a fight at school. Himself against the boy Bill, and he wanted to win. Panting, he glanced over his shoulder. The boy seemed to be gaining on him a little. Simon flung himself down the rest of the slope, sliding and bumping on his back, alarmingly fast now and again coming to his feet for a couple of staggering steps. And then, suddenly, he was at the bottom of the slope, stumbling and gulping for breath, with a brief glance up at the pursuing Bill, who yelled and glared at him as he saw him looking around. Simon was off and away over the field, running like a hare and feeling confidence surge stronger as he ran. But he could not lose the boy behind him, stronger, bigger, and longer-legged. The village boy pounded after him with grim determination, striding more heavily but never losing ground. Simon made for a stile in the hedge at the far side of the field and leapt over, gripping the shaky wooden bar at its top with one hand. He came out at the other side into a quiet lane, pitted with deep, dry ruts, hard as rock, lined with trees arching overhead in a thick-leaved roof. With the sunlight quite gone now, it was half dark under the branches, and both ends of the lane vanished within a few yards into the impenetrable shadows. Simon looked wildly up and down, clutching the manuscript and feeling the sweat damp in the palm of his hands. Which way would lead him to the grey house? He could no longer hear the sea. Making a blind choice, he turned right and ran up the lane. Behind him he heard the clatter of the boys' boots climbing over the stile. The lane seemed never-ending as he ran, dodging light-footed from side to side to avoid the ruts. Round every bend there stretched another, curving on in a gloomy tunnel of branches and banks, with no break anywhere, into a gateway or another field. He could hear the beat of the boy's feet behind him on the hard, dry mud of the lane. The boy shouted nothing now, but pounded along in grim silence. Simon felt a thread of panic creep back into his mind, and he ran more wildly, longing to get out of the cavernous lane and into the open air. Then, facing him round the next bend, he saw the sky, bright after the gloom, and within moments he was out again, running on a paved road past quiet walls and streets. Again he turned automatically, without time to think where he was going, and the rubber soles of his sneakers pattered softly along the deserted road. The high grey wall along one side and the hedge of a field on the other